Here is a scenario. You're evaluating a coaching session. The coach establishes a clear agreement, creates safety, stays present throughout. Is this ACC? Is this PCC? At that point, you genuinely cannot tell because C3, C4, and C5 often look similar at both levels. The answer lives in what comes next. How deeply does the coach listen? What awareness do they evoke? How do they partner around growth? C6, C7, and C8 carry 24 of the 37 markers. This is where the gap becomes audible. C6 expands from 3 ACC statements to 7 PCC markers. C7 expands from 3 to 8. C8 expands from 3 to 9. The expansion grows heavier as you move from listening to evoking awareness to facilitating growth. These are the skills where ACC to PCC development is hardest to make and easiest to overlook. A coach can look competent in all 3 at ACC level and still be well below PCC. The gap is absence of depth and integration, not absence of skill. Visualize what each marker sounds like before you press play on your first PCC recording. Competency 6, listens actively, has 7 markers at PCC. The additions capture specific listening channels ACC did not make explicit. Marker 6.1, questions tailored to what has been learned about this specific client. 6.2, the coach explores the specific words the client used. 6.3, inquires about the client's emotions. 6.4, explores the client's energy shifts or nonverbal cues. 6.5, inquires about how the client perceives themselves or their world. Marker 6.6 allows the client to complete speaking without interrupting. 6.7 reflects or summarizes succinctly. ACC listening was about hearing content. PCC listening is multi-channel awareness, words, emotions, energy, self-perception simultaneously. A client says, "I feel like I'm drowning." At ACC, a coach acknowledges the feeling. At PCC, a coach works across channels simultaneously. Marker 6.2, explore the specific word drowning, not a synonym. Tell me about drowning. What does that word capture for you? 6.3, inquire into the emotion underneath. What's the feeling running underneath all of this? And 6.4, if the client's voice drops when they answer, that energy shift is information. I noticed something shift just now. What's happening? 3 channels, 1 statement, simultaneous dimensions of the same listening act. Competency 7 evokes awareness, expands from 3 to 8 markers. The central addition is economy of questioning. Marker 7.6, the coach's questions are clear, direct, open-ended, one at a time, at a pace that allows for thinking. That one at a time and pace language is distinctly PCC. Marker 7.7, language is clear and concise. 7.8, the client does most of the talking, then the shoe and what pair. Marker 7.2 explores beyond the client's current thinking about themselves. The who. Marker 7.3 explores beyond current thinking about the situation, the what. Both required. You met this distinction in C5. It reappears here structurally. Marker 7.5. The coach shares observations or intuitions with no attachment to whether the client accepts them. A coach who opens the space after sharing, what comes up for you when I say that, and follows wherever the client goes, is demonstrating 7.5. The failure pattern, the coach shares an observation and immediately adds a directing question. I noticed this pattern. Don't you think it would help to address it? The observation was real. The follow-up attached it to the coach's preferred direction. At PCC, that attachment drops the demonstration below the marker, and if the coach speaks more than a third of the session, something is off. Competency 8 facilitates client growth, has 9 markers, the largest expansion. At ACC, does the coach help the client identify next steps? At PCC, does the coach co-create a full forward path? 8.1 invites the client to explore progress. 8.2 invites exploration of what the client has learned about themselves, the who. 8.3, what the client has learned about the situation, the what. 8.4, how to use the new learning. 8.5, partners on post-session thinking or action. 8.6, partners on moving forward, resources and barriers. 8.7, partners on designing accountability for this specific client. 8.8, celebrates progress and learning. 8.9, partners with the client on how they want to complete the session. At PCC, closing is a conversation, not a single question. The who and what pair reappears in C8, architecture, not coincidence. In C5, 5.1 was presence to the who, 5.2 to the what. In C7, 7.2 and 7.3. In C8, 8.2 and 8.3. The ICF is making something explicit. It is not enough to help a client learn what happened in the situation. A complete PCC session also helps the client learn something about themselves, their patterns, beliefs, and self-concept. An ACC level close asks, what are you taking away? A PCC level close makes both dimensions explicit. What did you learn about yourself, and what did you learn about the situation? When both are integrated into the forward path, you have C8 at PCC level. Marker 8.9, the coach partners with the client on how they want to complete the session. Timing and method of closing are co-created, not decided by the coach. Failure looks like the coach announces 5 minutes left and launches into their closing sequence. Efficient, the client was a passenger. 8.9 present looks like, what feels like the right way to bring this to a close today? The client has articulated their takeaways. The client feels complete, not cut off, not rushed. They have what they need to act or reflect. That is 8.9. C6, C7, and C8 are a system, not 3 separate buckets. C6 feeds C7. The precision of listening, specific words, emotions, energy shifts, self-perception is what makes PCC level awareness questions possible. A coach listening at ACC level will evoke awareness at ACC level because they are working with a partial picture. And C7 feeds C8. The quality of awareness reached mid-session is what C8 facilitation works with at the close. If the coach has helped the client move beyond current thinking about who they are, the C8 invitation has somewhere real to land. At PCC, these competencies function as an integrated system. That integration is what consistently demonstrated means. 37 markers across 6 competencies. The map is complete. Notice the structural pattern that ran through it. The who and what distinction first appeared in competency 5, returned again in C7, and once more in C8. 2 of those competencies have paired markers. One tracking what the coach attends to in the client as a person, one tracking what the coach attends to in the situation the client brings. At PCC, coaches need to be holding both dimensions throughout the session, attentiveness to the person and to the situation simultaneously. Before your first PCC recording analysis, read through all the markers and let yourself imagine what each one sounds like in a session. The goal is not a checklist. It is hearing the session as a whole and recognizing where integration is present and where it isn't. Unit 8.2 is next.